Let me guess, you've probably heard it before. You're not taking responsibility, and inside you're probably thinking, I'm doing my best. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. What else do you want from me? But here's the truth that many of us were never really taught is that taking responsibility doesn't mean that you're always wrong, nor does it mean that you're the villain. And it definitely doesn't mean that you're going to get walked all over. It means this: you've got the courage to acknowledge and own the impact of your behavior without collapsing into shame and guilt and turning this into some kind of defensive courtroom response with your partner. Because responsibility is power. It's how trust is rebuilt, it's how trust is built, and it's also how love becomes safer over time. When you learn how to become a safe person, you know that in order for me to be safe, I have to take responsibility for myself and how my behavior affects the people I love, whether I intended that behavior or not. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 ways on how to take real responsibility so that you can build connection and not resentment. So let's get into it. I'm Dr. Scott Sims. I run the program Breaking Reactive Patterns, the blueprint for building a safe and healthy relationship. Quick reminder, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. If this content is really speaking to you, actually try to share that for me. I would really appreciate that. Like, comment on it. Anything you do like that really builds the ability for me to share this material with other people, and it brings me to the top of the algorithm. In my program, I often share with the members that I stopped doing couples therapy years ago for one reason. It was absolutely maddening for me to try to get a couple to focus on themselves rather than the other person, because I knew that each individual partner only has control over themselves. But what I found in couples therapy is that both people just were solely focused on the other person, trying to get the other person to change, reasoning that if he changes, then I would change, or if she would change, then I would change. And it was very, very hard for them to look in the mirror, look at what they are doing to contribute to the problem, and take responsibility. I saw that relationships improved much faster when the individual members actually did that. They looked in the mirror, they took responsibility for their behaviors and how they're affecting their partner, or how they're actually sabotaging the relationship. The difficult part of that is that so many people just didn't even know that that's what they were doing. They weren't conscious of it. They couldn't let themselves be aware of themselves. But the failure to do that was a death spiral of the relationship. And learning how to take responsibility for your behavior is far harder than it seems. So here are 5 key shifts to start taking real responsibility and get out of being a victim of the problems that you create. Number 1, we're working to shift responsibility from shame. So this means that most people avoid responsibility because it feels like self-betrayal, when in reality, it's power, it's strength. So if I admit that I messed up, I'm the bad guy again. This is where your reactivity comes into play, your defensiveness, your criticism, blame, your stonewalling, your shutting down. We have to reframe this into responsibility. Shame is one of those emotions that is really difficult for us. We don't like to feel bad about ourselves. But when we are able to look at ourselves and we have an admission of guilt or an admission of being defective in some way, then it's maturity. That's a mature way of operating ourselves. And it's actually, if you have any children, that's what you're trying to teach your kids, is that when they do something, classic kind of thing, room's a mess, you walk in and say, what happened? And everybody's pointing to the other kid, like, wasn't me, I didn't do it. And what do we say as parents? You must learn to take responsibility for yourself. Well, guess what? We also have to learn how to take responsibility for ourselves to our partners and in our relationship. Let's make sure that we are very clear about one thing. You are flawed. You make mistakes. Sometimes we're thoughtless. Sometimes we're rude or careless with our words and passive aggressive. Lots of times we don't mean to be, but we are. So when you're accountable to the fact that you are flawed, then you can begin to take responsibility for the flawed behavior. The difference between shame and guilt. Shame is, I'm a bad person. Guilt is, I did a bad thing. Both can be extremely useful in your journey to growth. Shame is more detrimental because it has a tripping point, meaning that shame can create this spiral into depression, self-pity, self-loathing, and then we get into real dysfunctional behavior where we try to manipulate to get our partners to feel sorry for us or to take care of us or to rescue us. This makes everything in the relationship worse, far worse. It turns the focus away from what you did and how it affected your partner to focus on your low self-esteem, your low self-worth, and how awful you feel about who you are as a person. We have to learn how to practice that I can acknowledge the harm that I do to other people without collapsing myself into shame. Number 2, own your impact, not just your intentions. So this is the classic, that's not what I meant, you're taking it wrong. Real responsibility says that might not be my intent, but I can see how it made you feel. Again, you are flawed, and sometimes you're going to act and say things in a way that is hurtful to others. So that's one of the tenets in my program, is that the very first tenet of emotional safety is that I take full responsibility for my behavior and the effects it has on other people, whether intended or not. So owning it says, I shouldn't have talked to you that way. I shouldn't have said it like that. You didn't deserve it. I was being reactive, and that's on me. Pretty simple, really. But it takes strength to be able to do that, instead of focusing on what you did to me to make me do this to you. The goal is to be sure to learn from this so that you don't keep repeating it. You can't say sorry and then do the same thing over and over with the expectation that is not going to have an effect on your partner. It's going to wear them down and break down their trust that they feel for you. Your practice is to investigate with empathy to learn about their experiences of what you did. What was this like for you when I did or I said that? This will help them feel that their feelings matter to you and that you are genuinely interested in helping them to feel validated and safe. Number 3, stop playing the victim role. This sounds like I wouldn't have acted this way if she didn't ... Again, you're not the victim in the problem that you create. So to take responsibility, you must recognize how the problems are created by you in big and in small ways. For example, you've had a rough day and you're in a bad mood. You're coming home from work and you walk into the home and your wife can tell that something seems off. You seem stressed or upset. She checks in and she says, "Are you okay?" You deny that the fact that you're in a bad mood and you say, "Yes," when you're clearly not okay. She persists, saying, "You seem stressed. What's wrong?" Because you're not taking responsibility for the fact that you're in a bad mood, you may then turn on her and take it out on her. You say things like, "You know you always do this to me. Why do you always assume something's wrong? Why can't you just leave me alone?" She's going to then react to you because she feels attacked out of nowhere. She's actually expressing concern for you and asking questions because she can tell something's not right. And then you turn on her because she's asking you questions about what is obvious. Your mood seems off, and you're denying that your mood is off. And then you're turning it on her as if she's doing something to you. See how that works? So the cycle starts then. You play the victim in a problem you create, and then the conflict begins. In this example, it could all be completely avoided by simply taking responsibility and owning your mood. Sounds like, yeah, I'm in a bad mood. I had a really rough day. I just need a little bit of space. I need a little bit of time to decompress. That's it. Communicating what's obvious to her, I'm in a bad mood, and then saying what you want means you're taking responsibility for this bad mood and that you don't want to accidentally spill this bad mood out all over your wife or over your partner. Reclaiming your agency and practicing is asking the question, what's my part of the dynamic? What am I doing to contribute to the problem? Even if that problem is 1% or 5%, like in my previous video, you want to use this as a doorway to grow yourself. If you can own 5% to say, At least I did this. I caused this. This was my behavior that contributed to the problem. It may not have been the overall issue, but if I've done anything to contribute to the problem, I need to take responsibility for that and not play the victim in that. Number 4 is apologizing without defensiveness. Please, I beg you, avoid the classic, I'm sorry you feel that way. Avoid it. Seriously. It's bullshit. It's not an apology. It's patronizing, condescending, and invalidating. A real apology begins with acknowledgement that your behavior had a negative effect on your partner. Spending a minute working to understand that effect, such as how did it make you feel? What it meant to her? What did she make it mean? How did it make her feel about you, herself, or the relationship? Then you work to repair the damage. Identify what was happening in you that caused you to act that way. It's okay if you don't know. I mean, lots of times I don't know. I might just be reactive. I might just be in a mood and I don't really know what's behind it. But at least try to figure it out. Don't just say, I don't know. Do yourself a favor, because if you just say, I don't know, you can't learn anything from that. You literally don't know anything. So when you investigate, like, okay, what is this? What's going on here? Something wasn't the way that I wanted it to be, or the way you said something kind of activated the way that my dad used to talk to me, or my mom used to talk to me, or your behavior reminds me of something that makes me feel really insecure about myself. You have to learn to look inside to figure out that my behavior is a reflection of my beliefs, my wiring, and my programming. You then want to put boundaries on that behavior as a way to make sure that you're protecting yourself and your partner from that pattern. If you notice that you're in a bad mood when you get off of work, you want to remind yourself on your way home that your boundary to protect your family is to take a minute to recognize that I'm not going to take any of my mood out on my family. I'm going to take a minute and sit in the driveway or in the garage and take a few breaths and let all this go. I'm going to remind myself that my family loves me and cares about me and they're not against me. Just taking that minute to do that can allow you to shift out of that bad mood and show up the way that you need to. You must be accountable to your own dysfunction so it doesn't end up hurting your partner again. For example, I see now that when I did X, it made you feel X, and that wasn't okay, and I want to do better and I want to make it right. So remember that responsibility means repair. It doesn't mean regret. It means repair. And number 5, choose growth over comfort. Taking responsibility is uncomfortable. It requires you to go through sort of an ego death and requires you to be humble or have some degree of humility. But staying comfortable means staying stuck. Now you may argue, Dr. Scott, what's comfortable about fighting and being in conflict? Nothing. Nothing's comfortable about that at all. But you aren't choosing conflict. That's the result of what you're choosing. You're choosing to protect yourself over the relationship or over your partner. Being uncomfortable means that you're acknowledging your faults, your deficiencies, the mistakes that you make, and so you can learn how to grow yourself and how to improve your relationships. Growth is hard. Learning skills to master anything is very difficult. It requires you to push yourself, to stay dedicated, to do it when you don't feel like it, and to stay consistent and disciplined with it until you've developed mastery with it. Healthy relationships aren't built by avoiding conflict or hard conversations. They're built by owning your stuff, taking responsibility for it, and showing up differently in your relationship every day. So practice. Ask yourself after each moment of conflict, or maybe you recognize the tension inside of your body, what would taking responsibility look like right now? So to recap, we've gone through separate responsibility from shame, own your impact, not just your intentions, stop playing the victim, apologize without defensiveness, and choosing growth over comfort. Being a leader in your relationship with yourself, your partner, and your kids means taking responsibility, because that shows strength of character. It shows intention and integrity and an acknowledgement that love is a skill that must be honed and continually proved upon. Learning the skills to master love and connection requires you to first learn how to be safe and secure, And that's what my program is really all about. Breaking Reactive Patterns is meant to do just that. It's meant for you to know how to be a safe and secure person and grow yourself into a healthy adult who's mature, who can handle conflict, who can experience the ego death, to stop defending yourself so that you can be more tuned in and connected to your partner every single day. If you're interested in this program, schedule a discovery call with me. The links are below in the description. It looks like this on the screen. To learn more, watch this companion video on ways that you're being defensive without even knowing it. Please be sure again to subscribe and share this video with at least one person who needs to hear this information. And as always, thanks for watching.